Today, I want to speak directly to your hearts. I want to reach that place within you that has often been bruised by the struggles of life, where doubt and fear have taken root, and where hope feels like a fading light in the distance. I want to tell you something that may just transform your life. Something so profound, so powerful, and so life-changing that it can lift you up from the depths of despair and set you on a path of unshakable faith. You are not alone. God is there for you. You see, we all have moments when we feel utterly alone. It's part of the human experience. We've all been there in that dark, cold place where it seems like nobody understands what we're going through. It could be in the middle of the night when the world is asleep and your thoughts keep you awake, replaying every worry, every fear, every uncertainty over and over again. It could be in the midst of a crowd, surrounded by people, yet feeling completely invisible, as if no one sees you, no one hears you, no one understands the depth of your pain. Loneliness is a feeling that can strike anyone, anywhere, at any time. It does not discriminate based on age, race, gender, or social status. It affects the young and the old, the rich and the poor, the successful and the struggling. It can be especially cruel in times when we should feel most connected. During celebrations, family gatherings, holidays, or significant milestones. And sometimes it creeps in during the ordinary moments of life, during our daily routines when we least expect it. But here's the truth, the unshakable, unwavering truth that I want to engrave on your heart today. You are not alone, no matter how deep your loneliness feels, no matter how silent your cries seem, no matter how distant you think you are from everyone else. God is there for you. Let me tell you something, God knows you. And I don't just mean He knows your name or the number of hairs on your head. I mean, He knows the deepest parts of your soul. He knows your innermost thoughts, your greatest joys, your darkest fears, your secret struggles, and your unspoken desires. He knows the parts of you that you keep hidden from the world. The parts you think no one could ever understand or accept. And yet, despite knowing everything about you, He loves you completely, unconditionally, and eternally. Psalm 139, 1-4 says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely." Think about that for a moment. Before a word even forms in your mouth, God knows it. Before a thought crosses your mind, God perceives it. He is intimately familiar with all your ways. You are never out of His sight, never out of His mind, never out of His heart. And because He knows you so well, He also sees you. He sees you when you feel unseen, unheard, and forgotten. He sees you when you are weeping in the privacy of your room, when your heart is breaking in silence, and when your spirit is weary from the battles of life. He sees every tear that falls from your eyes, and He counts them as precious. Psalm 56, verse 8 tells us, You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. God doesn't just see your tears. He treasures them. He values them. He knows the story behind each one. When Hagar, a servant woman in the Bible, was driven into the wilderness and felt utterly abandoned, she cried out in her despair. But God saw her. He met her in her place of loneliness and provided for her. She named that place Bir Lahai Roi, which means the well of the living one who sees me. She realized that even in her most forsaken moment, God was there and he saw her. In the same way, God sees you. Even when you feel lost in a desert of loneliness, God is there with you. He is the God who sees. In our lives, we often face situations that make us feel utterly alone. Perhaps you've lost a loved one, and the grief is like a constant shadow that follows you everywhere. Perhaps you're battling an illness that has left you feeling isolated and afraid. Perhaps you're going through a breakup or a divorce, and the loneliness feels like a deep, unending chasm. Maybe you've been betrayed by someone you trusted, and now you feel abandoned and forsaken. Or maybe you're simply feeling lost, like you don't belong anywhere, like there is no place for you in this world. In all these moments, it is easy to feel like we are alone. But here's the beautiful truth. God is not just a distant deity sitting on a throne somewhere in the heavens, watching us struggle. He is a God who comes near, a God who walks with us through every valley, who stands with us in every storm, who holds us in every trial. He is the companion who never leaves, never abandons, never forsakes. In Isaiah 41:10, God gives us a promise. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. What a powerful promise. God doesn't say, I might be with you or I will be with you if you are good enough. No, he says, I am with you, period. He is with you in your pain, in your sorrow, in your confusion, in your loneliness. He is with you in every circumstance, in every season of your life. But let's be honest. Sometimes in the midst of our suffering, it can be hard to feel God's presence. When the pain is so deep, when the darkness is so thick, when the silence is so deafening, it can feel like God is a million miles away. It can feel like he has forgotten us, abandoned us, left us to fend for ourselves. But that is not the truth. The truth is that God is right there, even in the midst of your pain. The Bible tells us that God is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. He is not distant from your pain. He is right there in the middle of it. He is the God who draws near to the brokenhearted, who holds you in his loving arms, who whispers words of comfort and peace to your weary soul. He is the God who knows what it means to suffer, who understands your pain, who feels your pain, and who walks with you through your pain. We often think of God as a mighty, powerful being who is far removed from our human experiences. But God is not just a God of power. He is a God of empathy, a God of compassion, a God who chose to enter into our suffering through his Son, Jesus Christ. When Jesus came to earth, he didn't come as a king in a palace, living a life of luxury and ease. He came as a humble servant, born in a manger, living a life of hardship, rejection, and pain. He was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. Isaiah 53:3. He knows what it feels like to be alone. He knows what it feels like to be betrayed, abandoned, and rejected. He knows what it feels like to cry out in anguish and hear no response. When Jesus hung on the cross, he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" In that moment, he experienced the ultimate form of loneliness, the complete separation from God, so that you and I would never have to. He took on our loneliness, our pain, our suffering, so that we could experience the fullness of God's presence, the fullness of his love, the fullness of his comfort. Now, you may wonder why God allows us to go through these lonely seasons, these times of hardship and pain. Why would a loving God permit us to walk through these valleys? It's a question that many have asked, and I believe the answer lies in God's purpose for our lives. You see, God does not allow pain without purpose. He does not allow suffering without reason. He is a God who works all things together for our good, even the things that hurt us, even the things that break us. Romans 8:28 tells us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Notice that it says in all things. Not some things, not most things, but all things. That includes your loneliness, your pain, your heartbreak, your suffering. God is using all of it to shape you, to mold you, to refine you, to prepare you for the destiny he has for you. In the wilderness of loneliness, God teaches us to trust him in ways we never could when everything is going well. In those dark and difficult moments, we learn to lean on him, to rely on his strength, to depend on his grace. We learn that he is enough, that his presence is sufficient, that his love is all we need. We learn to walk by faith, not by sight, to trust in his promises even when we cannot see the way. When the Israelites wandered in the desert for 40 years, it was not because God had abandoned them. No, he was with them every step of the way. He guided them by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. He provided manna from heaven to feed them and water from a rock to quench their thirst. He never left them, never forsook them, never abandoned them. He was teaching them to trust him, to rely on him, to depend on him for everything. In the same way, your pain is not in vain. Your loneliness is not without purpose. God is using it to draw you closer to him, to deepen your faith, to strengthen your character, to prepare you for the greater things he has in store for you. You may not see it now, but one day you will look back and see that God was with you every step of the way, guiding you, sustaining you, carrying you through. 2 Corinthians 4:17 tells us, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." Your troubles may feel heavy now, but they are light in comparison to the eternal glory that God is preparing for you. Your pain may feel overwhelming now, but it is momentary in light of the eternal joy that awaits you. Your loneliness may feel like a vast, unending desert, but it is nothing compared to the eternal love and presence of God that will never leave you, never forsake you, never abandon you. So what do we do in the meantime? How do we endure these seasons of loneliness, these times of pain and suffering? We embrace the promise of God's presence. We hold on to the truth that He is with us, that He is for us, that He loves us with an everlasting love. Jeremiah 31:3 says, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness. His love for you is everlasting. It doesn't fade, it doesn't diminish, it doesn't grow weary. His love is constant, unchanging, unwavering. It is there for you always. Now, I want to encourage you to build a deeper relationship with God. You see, God doesn't just want to be a distant deity in your life. He wants to be your closest friend, your constant companion, your loving Father. He wants you to come to Him with all your worries, all your fears, all your doubts, all your dreams. He wants you to talk to Him, to listen to Him, to spend time with Him, to know Him. James 4:8 tells us, draw near to God and He will draw near to you. It's a promise. If you take a step toward God, He will take a step toward you. If you seek Him, you will find Him. If you open your heart to Him, He will fill it with His love, His peace, His joy, His presence. And as you grow closer to God, remember that He often reaches out to us through others. We are not meant to walk this journey alone. We are part of a greater family, a community of believers who are called to support one another, to encourage one another, to love one another. If you feel alone today, reach out. Find a community, a church, a group of people who will stand with you, who will pray with you, who will remind you of God's love and presence in your life. And if you know this truth, if you know that you are not alone, then be the light for others who are walking in darkness. Be the voice that speaks hope to the hopeless. Be the hands that reach out to the weary. Be the heart that loves the unloved. There are so many around us who are drowning in loneliness, who feel abandoned, forgotten, and unseen. Be the reflection of God's love to them. Let them know that they too are not alone. So as I close today, I urge you to believe. Believe that you are not alone. Believe that God is with you. Believe that He loves you, cares for you, and is working all things together for your good. When the waves of life threaten to overwhelm you, remember that He is the one who calms the storm. When the darkness closes in, remember that He is the light of the world. When you feel weak, remember that His strength is made perfect in your weakness. Lift up your eyes. Look beyond your circumstances. See the one who stands with you, who walks beside you, who carries you when you cannot walk. You are not alone. You never were. You never will be. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go.